always was very hands-on with regard to the exhibitions that he worked on. And we all went to Dakar so that they could see what we were talking about and just sort of feel the ethos of the city and what these devotional movements were about and what it meant to be basically gracing the city with the portraits of Amadou Bamba and his family, as was the basic topic, the central topic of our exhibition program. So Doran was collecting, and he and I went and we started thinking specifically we want to look for, the kinds of reverse glass paintings, and in particular worked with a bunch of artists that were displaying along this big street side wall. That day when we were working with those artists along that wall of glass paintings was a day like that. And I had been standing up in the sun talking to these guys. It was great. It was really fun. We were buying stuff, whatever. But I was pretty tired out. So, I did prevail upon Doran successfully for once to stop and get lunch. And Usman knew this nice little restaurant just down the way a bit that he knew about. We had driven by it, but had never stopped at that particular restaurant, but it was very handy, and so we went down there. And as we approached the restaurant, we saw that the two front doors to the restaurant were open, and there were remarkable paintings on the inner sides of both doorways that then framed the threshold to the restaurant. One with the image of Sheikh Amadou Bamba, and the other with his most fervent and first follower named Sheikh Ibra Lamp Fall, as his nickname, Lamp. And so that caught our attention, but especially Doran's, because Doran always was, his mind was always engaged with the exhibition principles that he knew he had, sort of explored through all the work he had done at the Fowler, and he knew that those doors would be great. He could just, before we had even gotten in the restaurant, before we ever even eaten anything yet, he had the idea, oh man, we have to have these. These were doors that were in use. They were shut when the restaurant closed for the evening, and they were locked, and that protected the restaurant from the bad guys or whatever. And so taking the doors off of a restaurant is quite an unusual request, to say the least. So Usman calls and asks if we can talk to the manager, owner of the restaurant and all that kind of stuff. And we're eating our food, and gentleman comes out. The man didn't resist. He came around immediately and said, yeah, I want to be a part of this, and this will be a blessing for me and my family and the restaurant workers and people that come in here and one thing or another like that. This is just a good thing all the way around. So he basically had the doors taken off, and Doran had them boxed up and sent back to Los Angeles. And the thing was that, the doors were made for the restaurant. They're handcrafted locally from recycled materials and all that. Wasn't like you could just go down to the hardware store and buy a couple doors. So new ones had to be made. That took a long time. And I can remember the next time we went back to Dakar, driving by, and there weren't any doors yet. So it took the guy a while. And that also meant that he had to hire a guard to sleep in front of the doors at night, so that that would be similar to a door, but it's a guy with a big stick. So, the guy made a sacrifice is the point. He decided that he would sacrifice his own convenience and all that sort of thing, and literally put his restaurant at some, kind of risk of rip off whatever at night. And so he wanted to do that. He wanted to participate. He wanted to have the doors that he had commissioned and that had graced his restaurant and whatever, and had blessed the people, his clientele coming through the doors, and had blessed the people working in there and whatever like that. He wanted to be part of the Saint in the City exhibition. So that's the story of the doors.